In a room buried under trash, a young man vents his rage at the Dark Demon King. This is the modest apartment building he calls home. His father asks what he said, but the boy, Itsuki, quickly plays it off. He looks down at the school's monthly menu, an idea taking shape. He sighs, thinking about how they can't even afford proper paper for his talismans. Just then, his father excitedly reveals a strange, newly purchased cursed tool. He insists it's not junk, but a priceless artifact for their family's revival. But Itsuki is lost in thought, remembering how the Dark Demon King sent him to hell. Now in this new life, he must work as an onmyoji to earn his redemption. His father watches over his shoulder as he finishes the fourth talisman. But his father's voice pulls him from his thoughts, though Itsuki quickly brushes him off. He finishes the fifth talisman, feeling the drain, as his father marvels at his skill. His father explodes with pride, declaring Itsuki a true genius of their bloodline. But Itsuki knows the truth. He's been granted a cursed power, an energy he must expend. His father panics as the priceless artifact suddenly snaps in his hands. Shaking it off, he grabs a reluctant Itsuki, declaring that people need their help. Their journey takes them far from the city, deep into the wooded mountains. There they meet their clients, an old woman and a young girl who speak of a fearsome ox demon. The old woman recounts its rampage, a beast-like stone that devoured everyone in its path. She breaks down, terrified for her granddaughter, and Itsuki listens to her plea. The young girl pleads with them, explaining that she and her grandmother are all that remain. His father boasts that they will handle the demon, but Itsuki is already preparing for the task. Without a word, Itsuki begins his incantation, channeling his power into the 5 talismans. The paper begins to fold on its own, taking the shape of Shikigami birds. With a single command, he sends them flying to hunt down the ox demon. As his father boasts about their lineage, Itsuki recalls the legends of the Ushioni, feeling the drain of his power. His Shikigami scour the forest until one of them detects a powerful presence below. He feels it through his connection to them. They've found their target. But something is wrong. The energy signature isn't that of a demon. He turns to the old woman and calmly announces that the ox demon has been located. But Itsuki's gaze remains fixed, his suspicion growing with every passing second. He leads the group deeper into the woods, his father impatiently telling them to pick up the pace. The source of the powerful energy turns out to be a lone camellia tree. His father puffs out his chest, ready to demonstrate their clan's might against the demon. Itsuki cuts him off with a sharp command to stay back, deflating his father's ego instantly. Itsuki takes command, declaring he will handle the subjugation himself while protecting the clients. For once, his father is serious, telling the others to prepare to escape the mountain if need be. Tears of pride stream down his father's face, but Itsuki just wants him to focus. Itsuki steps toward the tree, hand outstretched, announcing the start of the ritual. He unleashes his power, chanting an ancient spell to reveal the entity's true form. His father can only stare in disbelief at the raw power on display. The young girl covers her mouth, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and awe. But the old woman's expression remains cold and unreadable. From the tree's remains, a massive, muscular ox demon emerges, club in hand. His father gasps, stunned by the sheer might radiating from the beast. But Itsuki is unfazed, confirming that this is exactly what he suspected. Without hesitation, he raises his hand once more to finish the job. The ox demon's form begins to waver and dissolve under his power. In a flash of light, the powerful entity is completely vanquished. His father asks if it's already over, and Itsuki gives a simple, quiet confirmation. Itsuki explains that the entity wasn't a demon, but a divine guardian of the mountain. He turns his attention to the old woman, accusing her of lying about the spirit's nature. His father immediately scolds him for being rude to their client. But Itsuki pays him no mind, his focus entirely on the 2 women. He lays out their entire plan to use an onmyoji to weaken the guardian for their own benefit. The father can only stare in confusion at this cunning deception. With a snap, Itsuki reveals her true identity, a yamanba, a mountain witch. The old woman's facade drops, revealing a cold, sinister glare. In an instant, she transforms into a monstrous hag, swatting the weakened guardian spirit aside. The guardian is struck down with a single brutal blow. The witch snarls, demanding to know how the boy saw through her deception. Itsuki calmly explains that the Yamanba are remnants of a scorned goddess, fragments of a deity abandoned by her husband, tasked with carrying out her vengeful curse upon the world. He then turns to the young girl, ready to reveal the simple truth, telling the witch not to take out her ancient marital spats on innocent people. His casual disrespect sends the monster into a blind rage. She lunges forward, screaming for him to be silent. His father is caught in the path of her furious assault. But as the massive blade comes crashing down, the wounded guardian spirit steps in to shield him from the blow. The guardian spirit takes the full force of the blow, sending the witch staggering backward. The young girl can only watch, her expression frozen in shock. But a fire ignites in Itsuki's eyes as he prepares to intervene. He takes a single, decisive step forward, then launches himself into the air, soaring right over the monster's head. The witch looks up in disbelief as the guardian spirit holds its ground. Itsuki calls out a name, Kaya, summoning a ring of pure light. He initiates the twanging bowstring ritual, a technique to banish evil spirits. His immense power radiates outward, dwarfing the monstrous hag below. But the witch isn't finished yet, swinging her massive blade in a furious counterattack. The two forces collide in a blinding explosion of energy. The witch is thrown back by the sheer force of the blast. But from his vantage point, Itsuki remains completely untouched. He forms a new seal with his hands, a pentagram of light to bind the evil. With a flick of his wrist, he unleashes another wave of purifying energy. The Yamanba cries out as the sacred light tears at her monstrous form. Her massive weapon clatters to the ground, as she is forced back into her human disguise. But even on the ground, the witch's eyes burn with undiminished hatred. Itsuki simply watches, his expression cold and calculating. The witch sneers from the ground, asking why he's siding with a man-eater like her. But Itsuki's gaze remains cold and unfaltering. The young girl, Kaya, speaks up, insisting that this guardian spirit is different. The witch ignores her, pointing a finger at Itsuki and claiming she can sense the filth deep inside him. Our boy seems completely unfazed by her taunts. She presses on, asking if perhaps he's a man-eater himself. And just like that, her words strike a hidden nerve. A memory flashes through his mind, a truth he's tried to bury. The witch's accusation echoes in his soul, planting a seed of doubt. She watches his reaction, a flicker of surprise on her face. The memory deepens, revealing a figure from his past life with a bow drawn. An arrow of dark, corrupted energy forms in his grasp. A vision of the dark demon king, wielding his destructive power with a smirk. A single monstrous eye stares back in terror, as his power strikes down a demon standing over its prey. The creature screams as countless hands drag it into a vortex of darkness. A cluster of demonic eyes, all consumed by his power. Snapping out of the memory, he declares that he despises false charges. He stands ready, his own immense power flaring to life once more. The witch's dark power clashes violently with his own attack. The memory continues, showing a demon being torn apart by his dark power. Another creature's face shatters under the overwhelming force. This was the fate of all who stood against the Dark Demon King. Back in the present, Itsuki promises to end this with a fraction of that same hellfire. He launches himself past the guardian spirit straight for the witch. Landing before her, he unleashes a torrent of dark, corrupted energy. The witch can only scream as the shadows begin to consume her very being. He channels the power of his past life into a single strike, and slams his palm forward in a vortex of pure destruction. He calls out the name of his technique, the fire exorcism. The memory continues, a vision of his past self wiping out his enemies. Back in the present, the witch is overwhelmed by the sheer force of his attack. She screams in agony as the dark power sears her very soul. A strange mark appears on her hand as the shadows consume her. Itsuki stands over her, his expression as cold as the grave. He explains that he's branded her with his own energy, a mark his Shikigami will never lose. She spits back a defiant threat, refusing to be killed by him. But Itsuki simply states the obvious. The strong are the ones who win. He tells her to disappear. And with a final surge of power, he sends her flying. The witch is sent hurtling through the forest, crashing into the trees. With the threat gone, the guardian spirit lets out a weary sigh of relief. Itsuki's father can only stare, completely at a loss for words. He and the young girl, Kaya, are both stunned by what they just witnessed. Itsuki looks down as a small orb of light begins to glow in his hand. He watches as the light dissolves, recognizing it as a form of purification. Looking to the heavens, he wonders if this act is enough for the Dark Demon King. But his father's voice snaps him out of his thoughts. The man rushes forward, overjoyed and ready to celebrate his son's victory. But he stops to ask why Itsuki didn't finish the witch off when he had the chance. Itsuki casually explains that he simply ran out of paper. He reminds his father that he was forced to use school lunch menus for his talismans, and 5 was his absolute limit. He insists that his father needs to find a way to get them better supplies. But his father quickly changes the subject, asking what they're going to do about the young girl. Kaya stands alone, her expression a mixture of fear and uncertainty. Without a word, Itsuki approaches her. He informs her that he's going to ask some questions and she has no right to refuse. He offers her a chance to explain herself, but demands complete honesty. The girl seems to consider his words before giving a small, hesitant nod. Itsuki points out that she doesn't match the description of a Yamamba at all and asks who she truly is. Kaya begins to explain, revealing she is a descendant of the Yamamba. She says that to become a true witch, one must consume the flesh of a person they've killed. Itsuki puts the pieces together, asking what became of her parents. The girl looks down, her silence heavy with unspoken tragedy. She takes a shaky breath, preparing to reveal the horrifying truth. Her human father, she explains, was devoured by her own grandmother. Itsuki listens without a word, his expression unreadable. Through tears, she recounts how her mother was killed for refusing to do the same. She stands alone, a victim of a monstrous family curse. A memory surfaces of the witch, bloodied and demanding that Kaya eat as well. A memory of the witch's monstrous grin offering to help her complete the ritual. But Kaya tearfully explains that she could never bring herself to devour her own parents. Itsuki understands now. The witch has already tainted her, and she can't survive without consuming human flesh. Having heard enough, Itsuki prepares to deliver his final verdict. He offers to make her his Shikigami, lending her his own power. But the price for this new life will be her complete subordination to him. The weight of that word hangs in the air as she considers his offer. But with newfound resolve, she looks up and accepts her fate. She stands beside him, believing that this boy can finally change her cursed destiny. And without another word, Itsuki begins the incantation to bind her as his own. He introduces himself as Itsuki, the onmyoji who will bind her to a new contract. With a smile, he commands her to be reborn as his Shikigami, bound to his power. A wave of energy washes over them, a vision of a peaceful life she never had. A single tear falls as she puts her faith in him to guide her to a new future. Wiping his brow, Itsuki casually announces that the ritual is complete, but Kaya can only look back at him with a confused expression. Itsuki seems just as puzzled by her lack of a dramatic transformation. She explains that while she felt his power, nothing else seems to have changed. He gets flustered, clarifying that this contract doesn't mean he controls her mind. Looking away, he awkwardly tells her that from now on, she should just think of him as family. Kaya repeats the word family, the concept feeling foreign and strange. But the idea seems to resonate deep within her, a warmth spreading across her face. Itsuki quickly backpedals, stammering that he'll do his best to keep her from turning into a monster. But Kaya simply bows, formally accepting his offer and placing her trust in him. Her polite acceptance only leaves our boy more confused than before. An awkward silence falls over the forest as he struggles to process the situation. Just then, his father emerges from the bushes, giving him a smug thumbs up. He nods knowingly at the scene, much to Itsuki's growing irritation. Itsuki can only sigh, wondering why his simple mission of redemption has suddenly gotten so complicated. But his father is already celebrating, declaring their mission a success and that it's time for their new family to head home. The guardian spirit seems to have taken a liking to them, happily trotting along. Itsuki glances back, a small smile on his face as he considers the long road ahead. As the new family walks away, the spirit resolves to never fall back into its old ways. With Kaya by his side, Itsuki makes a silent vow to the demon king he once was. Their journey finally leads them back to a more traditional, spacious home. Inside, Kaya kneels before a small altar, paying her respects. She lights incense before a framed photograph of her mother's hand. A quiet resolve settles over her as she finds a moment of peace. Her mind drifts back to a happier time, a memory of her mother's gentle touch. She tells her parents that the nightmare is finally over and she can move on. She walks down the hall, her mind replaying the moment Itsuki ended her family's curse. A memory surfaces of another young onmyoji, calling her name as he wields a thorny staff. He leaps into battle against a horde of demons, initiating the same twanging bowstring ritual. A wave of purifying energy erupts from his attack, slamming into the demonic forces below. But his victory is cut short as a dark presence strikes from above. A blast of corrupted energy tears through the air, catching him completely off guard. The darkness erupts from his chest in a fatal blow. His eyes widen in the final moments of his life, and in his last vision, he sees the colossal form of the Dark Demon King holding him in its palm. The memory ends with the young onmyoji being consumed by that same dark power. Itsuki jolts awake with a start, the dream still fresh in his mind. He sits bolt upright in his bed, shaken by the violent vision. Morning light breaks over the roof of their new home. He rubs his head, trying to convince himself it was only a nightmare. Just then, a voice calls out to him from his doorway. It's Kaya, dressed in a kimono, cheerfully announcing that breakfast is ready. He finds a full, traditional meal laid out on the table, a sight he's not used to. She worries that it isn't enough, but Itsuki quickly insists that it's fine. He admits to himself that it looks delicious, though he never intended for her to become his servant. He reflects on how Kaya, the girl he saved from the Yamanba, has now become his Shikigami. He explains that since the ritual, he's been trying to figure out how to keep supplying her with his energy. Unlike the guardian spirit, she's a living being, and he can't just leave her on her own. If they're separated for too long, his power will fade, and she could revert back into a monster. He concludes that the only way to ensure her stability is for them to live together. But his father objects, horrified at the thought of bringing a girl like her into their trashed apartment. So Itsuki, with a bit of a blush, turns the tables and asks Kaya if he can move in with her instead. She agrees without a moment's hesitation, her face lighting up with pure joy. And so, while his father heads back to their old place alone, Itsuki happily moves into his new home. Since then, Kaya has taken it upon herself to look after him, a development he seems quite pleased with. On their first day living together, Itsuki tells Kaya not to go to any trouble cooking for him. He clarifies that he's used to the simplest meals, like just boiling water for instant food. But Kaya has other plans, excitedly requesting curry for their first dinner. He soon finds her in the kitchen, diligently kneading dough to make naan bread from scratch. The meal is a resounding success, with Kaya happily offering him a second helping. After finishing his food, Itsuki makes a serious announcement. He's decided to become an official onmyoji. Kaya looks up from her bowl, surprised by his sudden resolve. He's been working as his father's apprentice, but now he intends to get a national license and go independent. Itsuki admits he feels bad for freeloading and wants to start earning his keep by exercising spirits. And to do that, he declares that the first thing he needs is a new Shikigami. He considers the guardian spirit, but its immense size makes it impractical for most jobs. Kaya timidly asks if she might be able to help him. He admits that while he's given her his power, he's not sure if she's even capable of fighting. A memory of the monstrous witch flashes through her mind, a past she wants to leave behind. But with a newfound determination, she closes her eyes and focuses her will. Itsuki can only stare in shock as his dinner suddenly begins to float. A brilliant light erupts before her, taking the shape of a weapon. And in her hands, a massive, ornate spear materializes from thin air. He's left completely speechless by this sudden display of power. He recognizes the weapon's form, the legendary heavenly spear of the goddess Izanami. Itsuki realizes that since Kaya never ate human flesh, her nature is closer to the goddess Izanami than the monstrous Yamanba. In fact, her power is far too great to be considered a mere Shikigami. He knows he can't just treat her as a weapon to be wielded. But Kaya suddenly interrupts him with a request of her own. She tells him that instead of being his Shikigami, she wants to be a part of his family. Her heartfelt plea leaves Itsuki completely flustered and at a loss for words. He quickly changes the subject, explaining that he's already decided on a new Shikigami. His choice is the Yatagarasu, a divine three-legged crow from the mountains of Nara. The scene then cuts to Kaya, who has suddenly stopped in her tracks. Kaya notices his fatigue, suggesting he take a short rest. He's quickly reminded that while she has divine stamina, he's still just a middle school kid. She offers him a rice ball she prepared for their journey. He apologizes for slowing her down, but she just smiles, happy to be with him. She reminds him that he's her family now, a statement that still catches him off guard. As he eats, Itsuki considers their finances, all funded by the witch's inheritance, a fact that leaves him with a lingering sense of guilt. He knows he can't abandon Kaya, as her very life depends on him now, but their quiet moment is shattered as something comes crashing down from the sky. Itsuki recognizes it instantly, one of his Shikigami talismans. It was meant for reconnaissance, but something powerful enough to destroy it must be nearby. Suddenly, a massive black crow dives toward them with its talons outstretched. Kaya can only watch in horror as it swoops past and snatches the ribbon right out of her hair. Itsuki calls out her name, watching the bird fly off. She cries out in distress, desperate to get her ribbon back. Without a second thought, she chases after the thief. Itsuki grits his teeth, realizing this must be the Yatagarasu he's looking for. In the distance, a bright flash of light erupts from the forest. A group of hikers nearby mistake the explosion for a sudden bolt of lightning, but it's Kaya, who has already summoned her divine weapon to fight back. A memory flashes of the other young onmyoji, the one from Itsuki's dream, chanting a powerful spell. But in the present, Kaya swings her divine spear with all her might. and lands a direct hit on the massive crow. The memory continues as the other onmyoji calls out Itsuki's name. He's seen shielding a younger, terrified Kaya from an unseen danger. Her eyes widen in the present, a forgotten past rushing back to her. The vision ends with the other onmyoji collapsing to the ground. Back in reality, Kaya looks over at Itsuki, who was knocked down by the force of her attack. Above them, the Yatagarasu and its flock take to the sky, screeching as they flee. They watch as the divine birds abandon their nest and disappear into the distance. They approach the abandoned nest, finding it filled with stolen treasures. And among the glittering trinkets, they spot Kaya's missing hair ribbon. Itsuki observes that the crow was simply collecting shiny things from people. Kaya apologizes, believing she's ruined his mission by scaring the Yatagarasu away. But Itsuki just smiles, assuring her that their objective was a success after all. Because nestled deep within the abandoned nest is a clutch of eggs. He explains that the leader left them behind to save the flock, and he'll raise one as his own Shikigami. He then reminds her that her ribbon was an important, irreplaceable item. And with a new paper Shikigami, he quickly retrieves it for her. Kaya holds the ribbon in her hands, watching it glow with a faint, warm light. She smiles, holding the precious ribbon close, a sense of peace washing over her. Back at their new home, a new plan is already in motion. Itsuki sits intently at his laptop, typing away. He's setting up a webcam, pointed directly at the clutch of Yatagarasu eggs. Kaya asks if he's using the internet to advertise his onmyoji services. He explains that the world of exorcists is competitive, and he needs to build a name for himself. His idea is to livestream the eggs hatching, knowing that videos of raising yukai are incredibly popular. He gives a confident sign, though a bead of sweat betrays his true feelings. Kaya thinks it's a wonderful idea, that people all over the world will get to watch over the young birds. But her pure-hearted response only sends another wave of guilt crashing down on Itsuki. Itsuki decides it's probably best to keep his true intentions to himself. 20 days pass and Kaya's voice suddenly calls out to him. On the monitor, one of the Yatagarasu eggs begins to twitch. She excitedly announces that it's moving, catching Itsuki by surprise. And just like that, the clutch of eggs begins to hatch all at once. Kaya is absolutely mesmerized by the sight of the newborn chicks. While Itsuki provides them with divine energy, Kaya diligently takes care of their everyday needs. And when they're at school, his father is left with the chaotic task of babysitting. The days have become a bit hectic, and Itsuki decides to turn in early. He reflects that for a middle schooler, his life has become surprisingly old-fashioned. He drifts off to sleep, his mind wandering back to the astronomical amount of time he spent in hell. Meanwhile, Kaya is in the bath, happily washing the young Yatagarasu chicks. But the peaceful moment is shattered when Itsuki accidentally opens the door. He stammers a flustered apology, quickly trying to back away. But the chicks, fiercely protective of Kaya, suddenly turn on him with a menacing glare. They swarm him in a flurry of black feathers, showing just how attached they've become to their new caretaker. Later, a comment on his live stream asks if he's given the chicks names yet. Itsuki realizes this is a crucial step, a ritual that will shape their very nature. He decides to name them after the 5 divine beasts, assigning each one a corresponding element. Kaya thinks the names sound powerful, while Itsuki wonders just how strong these little crows will become. 1 month later, the young Yatagarasu have grown considerably. They've already begun their training, swarming a lesser spirit in a flurry of attacks. Itsuki notes that while they are yukai, they possess a distinct divine quality. He's pleased with how well they've absorbed his divine energy and grown so strong. But their training gets a little messy, as he realizes they're not quite ready for public appearances. He decides to focus on their discipline as the day of the onmyoji national exam draws near. The day finally arrives and he and Kaya head to the examination site. A sign marks the location for the second round of the national exam. His father explains that thanks to his own C-rank status, Itsuki was able to skip the first round. A fact Itsuki is grateful for, as they couldn't have afforded the trip anyway. A chart reveals the strict hierarchy of the onmyoji world, from F rank all the way to A. While the exam is open to his age group, most candidates are much older and more experienced. Itsuki knows that if he unleashed his true power, he would likely set a record that would never be broken. But becoming too famous would only complicate his mission of quiet redemption. He smirks, deciding on a new strategy, to hold back just enough to pass without drawing any attention. Just then, his eyes catch a small, cute charm that has fallen on the ground. He picks it up and calls out to the person who dropped it. The charm belongs to one of 2 girls in matching school uniforms ahead of him. He approaches the identical twins, holding out the lost item. The girl with the longer hair thanks him with a bright, cheerful smile. The girl asks if he's also here for the onmyoji exam. She wishes him luck, while her twin sister remains silent and watchful. Itsuki returns the smile, thinking that her charm seems to reflect her honest nature. They're directed to their designated examination hall. Inside, dozens of other candidates wait for the test to begin. They take their seats in a traditional room, facing the proctor at the front. A stern-faced man introduces himself as the deputy director and exam supervisor. He informs them that the entire exam is being broadcast live for the nation to see. Any form of cheating will result in immediate disqualification and a 5-year suspension. The task for the second exam is then revealed: to create a powerful guardian talisman. He explains they have 3 hours to create 6 talismans before moving on. From those 6, 3 will be chosen at random for the practical portion of the exam. The proctor then reveals the grim reality of their profession, needing 500 new recruits annually. This is to replace the many who fall to curses or retire from the dangerous work. While the other candidates look stressed, Itsuki just wonders if he can keep the leftover supplies. The proctor warns them that failure is not an option. The association needs competent members. But our boy isn't worried, knowing his own power can compensate for any cheap materials. With a final stern command, he declares that the second exam has officially begun. Itsuki calmly picks up his brush, ready to begin the task at hand. He knows that for most, this would be a difficult challenge against the clock. But for the average onmyoji, sealing power for long periods is an immense challenge, with one candidate's attempt bursting into flames. The sheer strain of creating 6 talismans requires careful pacing, a lesson some learn the hard way. For Itsuki, however, the process is almost second nature. In a fraction of the allotted time, he's already completed 5 of the 6 required talismans. He realizes that with 2.5 hours left, finishing now would make him stand out far too much. So he decides to put on a show, pretending to struggle with the final talisman to run out the clock. But his incredible speed hasn't gone unnoticed by those watching the broadcast. Elsewhere, even a pair of yokai note that his talismans seem to glow with a unique power. In a bar for exorcists, patrons dismiss him as a show-off who is clearly holding back, while others simply watch in confusion, wondering what kind of guardian he's even creating. On the broadcast, the twin girls from the elite family are already drawing attention from the viewers. The proctor checks his watch, surprised that Itsuki has finished with so much time to spare. He quickly recovers, announcing that it's time to proceed to the practical examination site. The next test involves a dried bonito flake, which the talismans are meant to protect. The task is simple. Use the talisman to shield the flake from a high-pressure machine. The viewers watching are just as confused, wondering about the strange choice of object. The proctor tells Itsuki to roll a die to randomly select which of his talismans will be tested. With the first talisman chosen, the proctor prepares to measure its defensive power. He activates the machine and the massive press begins its slow, crushing descent. Itsuki reveals that his first talisman is imbued with the power of his Yatagarasu Suzaku. The press comes down, the pressure climbing from hundreds of kilograms to several tons, shaking the entire machine under the strain. The proctor can't believe it. With just one talisman, Itsuki has already blown past the passing grade. The machine maxes out at 50 tons, held back by the power of a single, tiny Shikigami. He notes that while the talisman's energy has shifted, the bonito flake remains completely untouched. Itsuki quietly cheers on his little crow, promising it a feast of forest imps for its hard work. But suddenly, the little Shikigami pops out of the barrier, looking quite pleased with itself. With the guardian gone, the press slams down, instantly pulverizing the flake. The once protected object is now nothing more than dust and splinters. The proctor and the other candidates can only stare in shock as the final result is tallied. 50 tons of pressure for 23 seconds. The viewers watching the broadcast are left completely stunned by the result. The proctor grits his teeth, announcing it's time to test the next talisman. But Itsuki has a suggestion: to start the next test at the machine's 50-ton limit. He accepts the next cursed flake, noting how much negative energy it contains. He places his second talisman, this one imbued with the power of Genbu. This time the machine breaks down completely after a full minute under the strain. The officials can't believe it, realizing he's setting a new record with seemingly average talismans. Itsuki just smiles, his plan to stay under the radar failing spectacularly. The joy quickly turns to panic as he realizes he'll have to pay for the damages. But that worry is cut short as a massive skeletal beast erupts from the floor. The viewers panic, realizing that an apprentice shouldn't be able to control such a powerful Shikigami. A winged, one-eyed monster lashes out at the other candidates. The proctor raises his own talisman, attempting to fend off the sudden attack. He pulls another terrified candidate to safety as the beast rampages. The audience can only watch in horror, certain that the proctor is about to be overwhelmed. On the broadcast, they see Itsuki step forward, questioning what the show-off thinks he's doing. But the screen is suddenly consumed by a blinding flash of light. The feed cuts out, leaving the viewers staring at an empty room, completely bewildered. Back in the exam hall, a colossal shadow with glowing eyes looms over everyone. This is the power of his third talisman, the Dark Demon King. The skeletal beast's attack shatters the air as Itsuki shields another candidate from the blast. Elsewhere in the hall, the twin sisters face a massive wave of dark energy. Itsuki's eyes widen, not in fear, but in understanding. A voice declares the true purpose of a guardian talisman, to protect the innocent and punish the wicked. The one who summoned the beasts, a young boy in ornate robes, insists he won't see them as a threat. The viewers watching the broadcast can only stare in disbelief at the chaos unfolding. The boy shouts that he will fight anyone who stands in his way, even if it means defying the world itself. But his declaration is drowned out by a blinding flash of light from Itsuki's direction. When the light fades, Itsuki stands completely unfazed, surrounded by his own dark power. Back in the bar, the patrons watch the screen, stunned by the kid who was just holding back. The chaos subsides, and the candidates are escorted out of the damaged hall. Itsuki sheepishly explains that he had to use his third talisman during the attack, but the proctor's expression is anything but grateful. He declares that based on the first two tests, Itsuki's score is already set, and the results will be announced later. A wave of panic washes over Itsuki as he realizes what this means. He walks away from the exam hall, completely dejected. The twin sisters watch him go, one of them complaining that his first talisman alone should have guaranteed a pass. But the other twin just smiles, musing that it's fine if he's just a good person. Just then, Itsuki remembers the one thing he forgot to retrieve. Meanwhile, the proctor reports to a higher-up, who notes a familiar name connected to a legendary Onmyoji lineage. The proctor reports the incident to a woman with cold, unsettling eyes. Elsewhere, an A-rank Onmyoji reviews the results, intrigued by the boy who took the top spot. The proctor argues with the man, who he calls his brother. He insists the exam was fair, even if his own daughters were outmatched by pure skill. But the woman, another member of their clan, tells him he's missing the point entirely. She states that anyone who could beat the twins is no ordinary human, asking just who this Kaga Itsuki is. Her expression reveals a deep concern over a power that could rival their own. But her brother calmly explains that many great Onmyoji have Yukai blood in their veins. After all, their own Gokidu clan is descended from Oni and Tengu. Now they must determine if this boy is a rare talent or a great evil that must be dealt with. The twins' father demands to know just how Itsuki managed it. He notes that the third exam opponent has been announced, a move designed to force Itsuki's hand. The Gokidu woman proposes an exhibition match, the second and third place twins against the boy who suddenly took the top spot. The condition is simple. If the twins win, they will recommend Itsuki for a promotion to a higher rank. Their father considers this, admitting that even with both of them, it will be a difficult fight. But he knows his daughters have never truly experienced defeat or hardship. He agrees, deciding this will be a good experience for them, and that he will explain the situation himself. But the A-rank Onmyoji steps in, saying he will be the one to deliver the invitation, though he wonders if Itsuki will even accept. The woman scoffs, certain that after showing off so much, Itsuki won't pass up a chance to climb the ranks. But the A-rank Onmyoji interrupts, placing a hand on his brothers with a sudden seriousness. He tells his sister that no matter how much she eats, she'll never be satisfied. The scene shifts to a park, the designated site for the third national Onmyoji exam. Itsuki and Kaya wait, learning that only the top 100 candidates have advanced. The third exam is revealed to be a combat match between the qualifiers. Each candidate will use their 3 remaining talismans as life points, with the first to destroy 2 of their opponents winning the match. Kaya looks on with concern, understanding the gravity of the fight ahead. The prize for victory is an official certification as a D-rank Onmyoji. But Itsuki has also received a special invitation from the Gokidu clan for an exhibition match, with a C-rank promotion on the line. He realizes with a sigh that this means he'll be facing the twin sisters from the exam. The clock strikes the hour, and Itsuki knows it's time to head to the waiting area. He struggles to keep his 5 Yatagarasu chicks calm inside their carrier. Before he leaves, Kaya hands him a lunch she prepared, wishing him luck. On his way to the waiting area, he worries about his rowdy Shikigami causing a scene. Suddenly, an imposing figure appears before him, and he wonders if it's one of the Gokidu. A young man with fiery hair strikes a dramatic pose, declaring himself a descendant of the legendary Abe no Saime. Itsuki is completely and utterly unimpressed by this grand entrance. The boy gets in his face, insisting that words are unnecessary between them. He questions Itsuki's lineage, claiming the true Abe clan died out decades ago. The stranger continues to boast about his family's overwhelming power and prestigious history. But as he demands proof of Itsuki's own strength, the Yatagarasu chicks suddenly burst from their cage, much to Itsuki's horror. The fiery-haired boy gets right in Itsuki's face, screaming that he was the one who said words were unnecessary. He declares that he will now show Itsuki the proof of his legendary lineage. With a roar, he lunges forward, unleashing a powerful Shikigami from his own body. A massive, hawk-like Shikigami materializes, which he proudly presents as proof of his family's might. Itsuki remains completely unimpressed, wondering why a supposed Abe descendant isn't using a fox. He decides to settle this in the match, certain his hawk is stronger than any fox anyway. The scene cuts to the third exam, a chaotic battle between Kaga Itsuki and the boy, Abe Haruya. Itsuki's Yatagarasu chicks swarm their opponent in a furious combined assault. The sheer force of the attack sends Haruya flying backward, crashing into the fence and ending the match in an instant. Kaya praises Itsuki for his victory as the Yatagarasu chicks swarm him happily. She offers him the lunch she prepared, but he insists they'll eat after the exhibition match. He asks her to calm down the restless chicks, explaining that he can't afford to lose while holding them. Kaya gently gathers them all in a hug, much to Itsuki's flustered surprise. But their moment is interrupted by the arrival of their next opponents, the Gokidu twins. The short-haired twin scoffs, noting that they seem to have plenty of time for flirting. The other twin simply tells her sister to get this over with quickly. The more aggressive twin cracks her knuckles, ready for a fight. She holds up a small, squishy Shikigami with a confident smirk. Her sister asks if she's nervous, but the short-haired twin seems anything but. She explains that the purpose of this match is to expose Itsuki's true nature, but she admits that more than anything, she just wants to win. Her sister asks why, her expression gentle and knowing. The short-haired twin declares that it's to make their father proud. The other twin simply smiles, understanding her sister's simple motivation. She knows their father's true interest is in Itsuki, but he would never use them to get to him. She thinks about her sister, Shion, whose stubbornness is often mistaken for diligence. Shion turns to her sister, Sarah, telling her it's time to go. Sarah gives a small, confident smile in return. And with their resolve set, the Gokidu twins step forward to begin the match. The exhibition match begins with Itsuki and his Yatagarasu facing the Gokidu twins. From the sidelines, Kaya watches with a worried expression, but Itsuki remains calm, his focus entirely on the fight ahead. The proctor blows his whistle and the battle officially starts. The twins immediately spring into action, summoning chains of spiritual energy. They unleash a blast of demonic fire, a signature of their clan. Itsuki recognizes the attack, confirming their lineage is tied to Oni. He commands his own Shikigami, Genbu, to counter with the power of water. A wave of purifying water erupts from the small crow and surges forward to meet the demonic flames head-on. The two elements clash in a massive explosion of steam. But the short-haired twin scoffs, knowing a simple counter won't be enough. They raise their staffs in unison, preparing their real attack. A whirlwind of stone and debris erupts from the ground, a technique of the Tengu. The earth-based attack swirls around Genbu, overwhelming its watery defense. Itsuki can only watch as his Shikigami is caught in the trap. He realizes their plan. The fire was just a feint to force his hand. From the sidelines, Kaya looks on with growing concern for Itsuki. The twin explains that being an onmyoji requires more than just power, it demands strategy, and she's certain that the combined wisdom of the Gokidu clan is something he can never hope to overcome. They declare that with the pride of their clan, they will challenge Kaga Itsuki. The camera drone captures the scene as the twins' trap tightens its grip. Back in the bar, the viewers watch, certain the match is already over. The Gokidu woman's words from before seem to ring true, as they wait to see if the boy is a true talent or just a fraud. But Itsuki simply looks up, a new plan already forming in his mind. He calls out a name, initiating the very same twanging bowstring ritual from before. The twins are caught completely off guard by the sudden counter. A wave of purifying energy blasts upward from the ground, forcing them into the air and revealing their hidden Tengu wings. Itsuki's eyes widen, confirming his suspicion about their Tengu blood. With their wings revealed, the twins take to the sky, facing Itsuki and his flock from above. But they recover quickly, their expressions hardening as they prepare to strike from the air. Itsuki commands two of his Yatagarasu to defend the skies. The small crows launch themselves upward to meet the descending threat. But the twins remain unfazed, their true strategy already in motion. They unleash another attack, but it's aimed at the empty ground below. The earth erupts as their combined power tears through the arena. Itsuki realizes their elemental combination was a trap, and he's too slow to counter it. But just as he braces for impact, a blur of black feathers rushes past to protect him. It's Genbu, throwing up a desperate shield to intercept the twins' attack. But the combined force is too much, and the little Shikigami is completely overwhelmed. Kaya can only cry out in horror from the sidelines. With a deafening crack, Itsuki's second talisman shatters, leaving him with only one life point left. The twins look down, telling him not to look away from the reality of their power. Cheyenne reminds him that she warned him this would happen. They dive down from the sky, ready to end this with the full pride of their clan. Itsuki looks up, caught off guard by their relentless aerial assault. But a shadow crosses his face, a flicker of the dark demon king he once was. He thrusts his hand forward, calling on his next Shikigami, Bayako, to unleash a golden arrow. The tiny Shikigami unleashes a storm of metallic projectiles. Cheyenne scoffs, certain that such a simple attack won't work. But Itsuki calls on another Shikigami, Suzaku, to add fire to the assault. A volley of flaming arrows now rains down on the airborne sisters. Sarah calls out to Cheyenne, telling her to evade the incoming barrage. They gracefully weave through the air, dodging each and every shot. But as they dodge, a massive shadowy beast materializes right behind them. Cheyenne looks back in utter disbelief, realizing he had yet another Shikigami in reserve. Its massive hand closes around Sarah, trapping her in its grip. The shadowy hand tightens its grip and she lets out a cry. Cheyenne screams her sister's name, but the shadowy beast is revealed to be the guardian spirit from the mountain. Itsuki calmly explains that if his opponent was a yokai, then Sarah's warning to her sister makes perfect sense, telling her not to move or risk being crushed. Cheyenne freezes, caught between her pride and her sister's safety. But one of Itsuki's Yatagarasu takes her out of the fight with a single peck. Now held captive, Sarah looks down at Itsuki, calling him an incomprehensible person. She notes how he wields such immense power so casually, almost recklessly. She can tell his true goal is far greater than just becoming a national onmyoji. But Itsuki simply says he doesn't want anyone else to fall into hell as an onmyoji. His answer seems to resonate with Sarah, who offers a small, knowing smile. Sarah tells him that she believes in his words, and with that, her second talisman shatters into pieces. The guardian spirit opens its hand, revealing a tiny version of Sarah, her final talisman now gone. The massive spirit gently places her on the ground before a stunned Itsuki, who then awkwardly scoops her up in a hug, much to her surprise. The proctor can't believe what he's seeing, spitting out his drink in shock. And from the sidelines, Kaya's jaw drops at the unexpected display. Sarah, now back to her normal size, angrily asks if he was testing her sincerity. Itsuki can only stammer, glancing nervously over at Kaya in the distance. But Sarah just gives him a smug, knowing smile, enjoying his discomfort. Kaya's face flushes, her mind racing at the unexpected turn of events. Itsuki can only sweat, realizing his life has once again become needlessly complicated. Meanwhile, Cheyenne fumes over her defeat, annoyed by both Itsuki and his crow. Elsewhere, the heads of the Gokudu clan watch the broadcast with quiet intensity. The day of the exam finally comes to a close, and their journey home begins on the evening train. Itsuki and Kaya sit in a heavy contemplative silence. He glances over, realizing his actions have only made her more anxious. Later, he tries to explain that when he said family, he didn't mean it like that. But the word hangs in the air, and he reflects on how irresponsible he's been. He wonders what he can truly do for Kaya as her new family. He tries to awkwardly explain his actions during the match. He quickly tries to brush off the embarrassing moment as a new idea begins to take shape. Kaya worries that he's angry, that he's just trying to keep her from becoming a monster, but Itsuki tells her that they need to face this together. He then suggests they go on a trip during their summer vacation. He explains that he wants to do something for her for a change. He proudly declares that he'll pay for everything with the money he's earned. Though he conveniently forgets that money was meant to pay for the broken machine, Kaya's eyes widen, a look of pure, unadulterated joy on her face. She gives him a warm, heartfelt smile, accepting his offer without hesitation. Itsuki can't help but smile back, happy to finally do something for her. But the Yatagarasu chicks are already causing a scene in their carrier. Kaya tries her best to quiet them down, telling them to behave on the train. Their destination is a small, uninhabited island known as a paradise for cats. A ferry makes its way to the popular tourist spot, filled with eager visitors. But one of the island's feline residents seems less than thrilled by the new arrivals. These cats were originally brought here to protect the island's crops from mice. The ferry finally docks, and the passengers begin to disembark onto the shore. A single grumpy-looking cat lets out a long, drawn-out meow. Other tourists find it cute, but wonder why it's the only one on the island. The cat watches them with a suspicious, sideways glance. Just then, Itsuki and Kaya arrive, ready for their summer vacation. The strange cat's attention immediately shifts to the newcomers. Itsuki looks at a map, confused that this cat paradise seems completely empty. But Kaya is the first to notice something truly strange about their feline observer. It's a nekomata, a cat yukai, which seems to take an instant liking to her. Itsuki realizes the truth. The island is filled with yukai, all drawn to Kaya's divine energy. But the other tourists walk by, completely oblivious to the supernatural nature of the island's lone resident. As they explore the island, Itsuki comments on the beautiful scenery, while the nekomata watches them from the shadows. Kaya, meanwhile, has found a way to entertain their new feline friend. She holds the plump yukai in her arms, who seems to be enjoying the attention. The two of them spend the day playing happily along the shore. And Itsuki can only watch with a smile, happy to see her having so much fun. As the day winds down, Kaya suggests it's time to head back to their inn. She waves goodbye to the nekomata, promising to see it again. The cat gives a reluctant wave in return, its grumpy expression unchanged. It lets out a lonely cry as it sits alone on the beach. Night falls over their hotel, bringing the first day of their trip to a close. But Itsuki lies awake, pondering the nature of the nekomata they met. Meanwhile, Kaya sleeps soundly in the adjacent room. But a faint sound of running breaks the silence of the night. He hadn't sensed any malice from the creature. But the cat yukai is now racing through the woods with a desperate urgency. Itsuki can't shake his concern over the island's other missing cats. Elsewhere, two more of the cat spirits are scaling a steep cliff face. Then, a scratching sound echoes from much closer. The noise is just enough to stir Kaya from her sleep. She turns to find a familiar silhouette at her window, desperately trying to get inside. She recognizes the grumpy nekomata from the beach, who seems to be asking for help. In its eye, she sees the reflection of another, much smaller cat. Her expression shifts from confusion to sudden alarm. The yukai drops a small, limp body onto the floor before her. It's another cat, unconscious, and the nekomata begins to groom it desperately. Kaya realizes the small cat isn't hurt, but its life force has been completely drained. Without hesitation, she decides to share her own divine energy to save it. The smaller cat slowly begins to stir as Kaya's power flows into it. A look of determination settles on her face as she focuses her will. She turns to the nekomata, asking it to explain what's really happening on this island. The nekomata rubs against her, its thoughts and feelings flowing directly into her mind. She understands its plea, a silent message of desperation. But the truth of what's happening on the island leaves her completely horrified. The cat leaps from the window and she calls out, telling it to wait. The newly revived cat follows close behind, now filled with her energy. Kaya looks down from the window, knowing she has to follow them. Itsuki's paper Shikigami leads the way, guiding the small cat through the night. The paper bird soars through the air, tracking the source of the island's curse. They arrive at a dark cave, the source of the island's suffering. Inside, they find the other cats, all drained of their life force, as a strange tail disappears into the darkness. Kaya looks on in horror, realizing the fate of the island's cats. The nekomata lets out a fierce hiss, its fur standing on end. She understands now that something has been capturing them and draining their life force. And from the darkness, a massive, whiskered snout emerges, revealing a colossal rat-like yukai, surrounded by its helpless victims. Kaya realizes the nekomata has been fighting this beast all alone to protect its friends. It was desperately searching for someone who could help them. The cat yukai gives a determined, sideways glance. With a flash of light, Kaya summons her divine spear, ready to join the fight. The nekomata charges forward, empowered by her resolve. She vows to protect the nekomata while it gathers its remaining strength. With a powerful swing, she brings her divine spear crashing down and lands a solid blow against the monstrous rat. But the beast barely flinches from the direct hit. Instead, it lashes out with its tail, sending the nekomata flying. Kaya watches in disbelief as her ally is struck down. Her face pales with horror at the sudden turn of events. She rushes to the injured cat's side, calling out its name in desperation. But she knows there's only one way to save it now, offering her own life force. The nekomata accepts her power, ready to receive the divine energy. A surge of divine energy erupts from the wounded cat. It transforms into a massive, glowing guardian, ready to defend its home. With a single powerful swipe of its paw, it lands a devastating blow against the monstrous rat. The beast is sent flying back, utterly defeated by the empowered nekomata. With the threat gone, the other cats slowly begin to recover. Itsuki's paper Shikigami watches from a distance, its mission complete. On the ferry ride home, Itsuki explains that the Nekomata was fighting a giant rat yukai. Kaya asks if this means the grumpy cat is now a part of their family. Itsuki agrees, suggesting they look after it while it recovers its strength. The rescued cats gather on the dock, now free to leave their cursed home. The Nekomata lets out a long cry, saying its own farewell to the island. Kaya watches with a warm, gentle smile, as the grumpy cat seems to happily meow back at her. The cats watch from the shore as the ferry disappears over the horizon. Back at home, night settles over the quiet residence. Itsuki considers his next move, remembering how he named his Yatagarasu. He realizes their newest Shikigami, the Nekomata, also needs a proper name. Kaya then makes a suggestion, asking if she could be the one to name it. She clears her throat, ready to bestow a new identity upon their feline friend. With a bright smile, she proudly bestows upon it a new name, Nekotaro. Itsuki looks on as Nekotaro is officially added to their growing family of Shikigami. The grumpy cat seems to love its new name, letting out a cheerful cry of approval. This reminds Itsuki that the guardian spirit is still nameless, a thought he quickly pushes aside for later. The story then shifts, introducing a new threat. The Tesso, a vengeful spirit born from a monk in the Heian period. The tale begins with Emperor Shirakawa, who desperately sought an heir to his throne. He promised a great reward to the monk Reigo, whose prayers were answered with the birth of a prince. But Reigo's simple request to build a platform at his temple was met with fierce opposition from a rival faction. Fearing political backlash, the emperor was forced to go back on his word. Betrayed and filled with rage, Reigo starved himself to death, placing a powerful curse on the emperor's newborn son. His spirit transformed into a monstrous rat with iron teeth, leading a swarm of 84,000 yukai to enact his revenge. Haruya explains that this mountain has been steeped in the Tesso's grudge ever since the Heian period. He continues his story, a look of intense focus on his face. But his lecture is interrupted by two newcomers who cheerfully greet Itsuki, much to Haruya's annoyance. A woman with a selfie stick apologizes, introducing herself as a YouTuber who specializes in onmyoji content. Haruya panics at the sight of the camera, not understanding why he's being filmed. The other boy explains he was desperate to feature the now famous C-rank onmyoji Kaga Itsuki on his channel. He gets right in Haruya's face, his cheerful energy catching the fiery-haired boy completely off guard. Haruya reluctantly agrees, deciding this is a good chance to promote his own clan's name. He then points at Itsuki, declaring himself the star of today's show and warning him not to mess up. The group prepares to film, with Haruya looking less than thrilled about the whole ordeal. The YouTuber boy eagerly asks Itsuki to go over the plan for their collaboration. Itsuki gives a reassuring smile, promising to do what he can to make things go smoothly. The woman then asks Itsuki about his fiery-haired companion, recalling their match from the exam broadcast. The realization that their fight was public leaves Itsuki completely stunned. A sudden chaotic scene unfolds, with the YouTuber boy looking nervously at a splattered mess on the ground. The woman then starts her broadcast, cheerfully greeting her audience with a wave. She announces today's mission, to deal with the legendary Tesso of Mount Hiei. Itsuki explains that, just as Haruya mentioned, the mountain has been cursed for nearly 2,000 years, resulting in human casualties. He recounts a tragic incident from the previous year, where a young girl was lost to the Tesso's swarm. The woman explains that a single rat is weak, but their true power comes from their overwhelming numbers. Haruya proudly declares that this is a job for a true onmyoji, though Itsuki seems less than convinced. The YouTuber boy then turns the camera to Itsuki, asking him to lay out their grand strategy. Itsuki explains that since hunting down 84,000 rats is impossible, their first step is to gather them all. And to do that, he reveals their secret weapon. A massive speaker. The plan is to broadcast a song that taunts the Tesso's ancient rival, provoking the entire swarm. He proudly calls it Operation Make the Iron Rats Mad. But Haruya immediately objects, shouting that a plan like that will never work. Itsuki calmly explains that his Yatagarasu will carry the speaker across the mountain. Before suddenly realizing a critical flaw in his own plan, the YouTuber boy asks what's wrong as Itsuki suddenly freezes mid-sentence. He sheepishly admits that he left his Yatagarasu back at home. Back at the house, Kaya explains that the chicks are on guard duty today. Haruya shouts that this is ridiculous, as Itsuki laments not having a flying Shikigami for the job. The fiery-haired boy realizes with dawning horror that they expect him to be their rat bait, but the YouTuber boy grabs his face, telling him to look at it another way. He explains that only Haruya's hawk Shikigami is capable of carrying the speaker over the mountain. He turns to Itsuki for confirmation, who can only look away in shame. A manic grin spreads across the YouTuber's face as his new plan comes together, and Itsuki can only sweat, realizing he's been completely outplayed. The YouTuber boy explains that a larger bait is far more effective than a flock of small crows. Haruya can only sweat, realizing he's being praised into a corner. With his ego sufficiently stroked, he reluctantly agrees to take on the dangerous task. He summons his massive hawk Shikigami, ready to begin the mission. The giant bird takes to the sky, carrying the speaker deep into the cursed mountain. Its expression is one of pure, unwavering focus. But it isn't long before the Tesso's swarm descends upon it in a furious assault. Haruya shouts in frustration, trying to stop the rats from fleeing. The hawk seems to taunt him, noting that without his crows, Itsuki is just a normal kid. Itsuki can't help but notice how much the Shikigami resembles its stubborn master. The operation begins on the cursed slopes of Mount Hiei. Itsuki stands with the others inside a protective barrier. With a determined shout, Haruya sends his hawk Shikigami on its way. The massive bird soars over the dense, cursed forest, broadcasting its taunts for all the mountain spirits to hear. And from the ground, the Tesso's dark energy begins to stir. Vengeful spirits rise from the earth, drawn by the sound. Soon a massive swarm of shadowy rats surges across the landscape. The woman with the camera can only watch with growing apprehension. She reminds the others to stay close, safely within the talisman's protection. The hawk Shikigami is quickly overwhelmed by the shadowy swarm. Haruya shouts at his Shikigami to get a grip, while the YouTubers film the chaos. Itsuki realizes that the hawk alone won't be enough to handle this. He summons his newest Shikigami, Nekotaro, telling it to provide cover. A small shadowy form emerges from the talisman. The hawk is nearly consumed by the endless tide of vengeful spirits, but Nekotaro erupts into its massive guardian form, ready to fight. The giant cat leaps over the sea of rats, moving to intercept. It draws the swarm's attention, allowing the hawk to escape to safety. Back on the ground, the group is completely surrounded by the Tesso's curse. The YouTubers are thrilled with the footage, while Haruya questions their sanity in the face of danger. Itsuki tells Nekotaro to hold on just a little longer, as the rat extermination is almost complete. But Haruya refuses to be upstaged, shouting that he'll get his revenge on Itsuki. A vision shows two figures walking toward a massive, glowing sphere of energy. The woman admits to herself that she's not even a fraction of the onmyoji that Itsuki is, but she can still broadcast this fight, hoping to inspire others with his example. Haruya grows frustrated, realizing that the swarm of rats is seemingly endless. The woman gets a bold idea, suggesting they just open up the entire mountain, but Itsuki just gives a confident smirk, his own plan already in motion. He calls out a new name, summoning the massive guardian spirit to join the fight. The shadowy rats of the Tesso swarm scurry across the ground, but they are quickly consumed by a much larger, darker power. Haruya's hawk Shikigami swoops down to join the guardian spirit's assault, but Haruya himself is left completely speechless by the unfolding chaos. From the swarm, a massive fanged beast suddenly emerges. He can only stammer, wondering what this new monster could be. The guardian spirit lets out a defiant roar, unfazed by the new arrival. It seems to dismiss the creature as something out of a monster movie. But the true form of the Tesso is a terrifying sight to behold. And on the cursed mountain, the final battle is about to begin. The scene cuts to a quiet graveyard, where a young girl pays her respects. She offers a silent prayer, but a sudden noise breaks the silence. She turns around, her eyes wide with surprise. Behind her stands another, younger girl, who calls out for her brother. Back on the mountain, the guardian spirit braces for the Tesso's attack. It meets the beast head-on with a single devastating punch. The monstrous rat cries out as the blow connects with incredible force. Haruya celebrates the direct hit, but Itsuki knows this isn't over yet. The Tesso is sent hurtling across the forest, crashing through the trees. Its massive form begins to waver and dissolve under the guardian's power. But the beast's form simply dissolves into a tide of shadowy energy, reforming into a swarm of monstrous, sharp-toothed beasts. The guardian spirit tries to fight them off, punching through the swarm. But the Tesso's undying grudge fuels the endless assault. The shadowy creatures begin to overwhelm the massive guardian. Itsuki explains that this is the result of a promise broken by an emperor long ago, a curse born from betrayal that has festered for centuries. But he questions if that ancient injustice gives it the right to torment the present. He scoffs at the spirit's self-pity, finding its reasoning laughable. He draws a bow of pure energy, declaring that its grudge has become nothing more than a nuisance to the living. but Haruya can only call out his name, confused by his sudden change in demeanor. Itsuki unleashes his attack, telling the spirit to go reflect on its actions in hell. A wave of dark, purifying energy tears through the swarm of vengeful spirits. The shadowy rats are completely overwhelmed by the sheer force of his power. A massive explosion of light and shadow erupts across the entire mountainside. A single pillar of light marks the spot where the ancient curse was finally broken. The other Shikigami can only watch from a distance, stunned by the raw power on display. Haruya and the YouTubers are left completely speechless by what they just witnessed. Itsuki calmly blows away the lingering energy from his fingertips, the job now finished. And with that single, decisive blow, the mountain is finally at peace. The three boys stand in the quiet aftermath of the battle, the mountain finally cleansed. Haruya can scarcely believe that a curse centuries old has been completely purified. The YouTuber woman gushes over their incredible work, certain the footage will be a massive hit. The YouTuber boy thanks them for the collaboration, and Haruya insists he'll be the star next time. As they part ways, Haruya asks if Itsuki is heading home, but our boy has other plans. He explains that he's just going to meet his mother briefly at the station. Haruya is stunned to learn that Itsuki has a sister with a high social standing. He explains that his father used to take him to see his mother and his sister Ayaka. While his mother despises him and his father, she adores his sister, forcing them to meet in secret. Haruya wonders why Itsuki is tagging along, but seems to sympathize with his situation. A young girl calls out to her brother as Itsuki and Haruya wait at the station. It's his sister Ayaka, who waves hello with another girl standing right behind her. Itsuki greets her by name, leaving Haruya completely lost. Ayaka questions their confused expressions, wondering what's wrong. She then turns her attention to the girl with her, asking who she is. Ayaka introduces her friend Himari, a classmate from elementary school. Itsuki asks if she's a ghost, but Ayaka explains that it's a long story. Our boy can only scratch his head, feeling a bit flustered. He decides they can talk later, just glad to see his sister is safe and sound. He asks Himari to look after Ayaka, who protests being treated like a kid. Haruya asks if Itsuki and his father are doing all right. Ayaka assures him that she's fine, though her own father can be a handful. But Haruya is completely captivated by the girl standing beside her. He realizes with a blush that this ghost is exactly his type. Itsuki introduces Haruya as a fellow onmyoji, much to his flustered surprise. The fiery-haired boy is left completely speechless by the sudden introduction. Ayaka recognizes him as Abe Haruya, thanking him for looking after her brother. Haruya's ego swells as he's recognized for his legendary lineage. With their brief reunion over, the group parts ways at the station. Haruya comments on the cute ghost, asking if Itsuki has a thing for spirits. The train pulls into the station, their journey finally coming to an end. On the ride home, Haruya admits he was worried about Itsuki's immense cursed energy. He confesses that seeing Itsuki juggle his sister and his Shikigami has given him a new perspective. Itsuki just offers a small, knowing smile in return. He looks out at the city, reflecting that this new life is surprisingly comfortable. His quiet sentiment seems to catch Haruya completely off guard. But Haruya quickly recovers, proudly declaring Itsuki a worthy rival. Their train continues its journey, a new rivalry officially forged. But elsewhere, a monstrous spider-like creature laments that it's still not enough. Her human form shatters, revealing the monster within, driven by an insatiable hunger. The monstrous spider complains that the taste is awful. A smaller spider dangles from a thread, agreeing with its mother. Her children clamor for a more delicious meal, wondering if their feast will arrive soon. The monstrous woman listens to her children's pleas. She promises them that they will have plenty to eat very soon. Elsewhere, the Gokudu woman tells her followers that it won't be long until their mother arrives. At the Onmyoji Association, an official explains that the situation has become extremely serious. A woman confirms she's aware of the supervising Onmyoji in Aomori Prefecture. She knows that the source of the problem is located there as well. Taking a sip, she coldly states that the association is struggling and shouldn't be wasting its resources. The official sits stiffly, his expression grim as he delivers his report. The target is the Shirokami line in Aomori Prefecture, where the supervising Onmyoji went missing. He explains that nearly 100 B-rank Onmyoji and soldiers have already become casualties. The creature is extremely hostile toward humans, and the damage is spreading rapidly. But the woman coldly asks if humanity wasn't the one to strike first. Her question hangs in the air, leaving the man completely speechless. She explains that for ages, humans and yokai of the Shirokami Mountains coexisted peacefully, but Aomori's new development plans led them to invade the yokai's territory with force. The spider monster is only lashing out because its nest was destroyed and its children were harmed. She questions the wisdom of provoking such a powerful entity just for the sake of development. The official sweats, feeling the pressure of her cold logic. He insists that her proposal is completely out of the question. Slamming the table, he argues that trillions have already been invested and they can't simply abandon the project now. He points out that the spider's territory extends into Akita, a region under the jurisdiction of a family connected to her. Her eyes flash with a cold fire as she asks if he's suggesting she ignore the threat to her own people. The A-rank Onmyoji states that since Ayamori started this, they will present their terms for the Gokidu clan to handle the subjugation. He lays out the conditions, a reward of 2 billion yen, double the usual rate plus military support. The twins' father listens intently as his daughter Sarah calls out to him. She offers up her own share of the reward to specifically request Kaga Itsuki for the mission. But her father refuses, explaining that this creature has already defeated B-rank Onmyoji, and he won't send his C-rank daughters to the front lines. He argues that Itsuki is only a C-rank, questioning why they would even need him. But Sarah holds up a phone, suggesting his rank doesn't reflect his true power. On the screen is footage of Itsuki's battle against the Tesso, a display of overwhelming force that speaks for itself. Their father watches the video, his expression unreadable. Sarah explains that as an official Onmyoji, he can use his reward to hire others for the mission. She thanks her father for his consideration, though Shion remains silent. Later, as the twins walk down the hall, Shion asks why she brought up Itsuki's name. She insists there are plenty of other Onmyoji they could have chosen, but Sarah just smiles, telling her sister she's mistaken, much to Shion's surprise. Sarah explains that just like her sister, she wants to be useful to their father, and to do that, she believes using Itsuki is their best option, admitting that while she doesn't like it, she trusts his skill. Shion reluctantly agrees, and her sister praises her for her understanding. The scene shifts to a remote cottage, the base of operations for their next mission. Itsuki arrives, politely thanking them for the invitation to join the team. Inside, the full team is assembled. The A-rank head of the Gokidu clan, B-rank Onmyoji, the C-rank twins, and even military support. The A-rank Onmyoji begins the briefing, ready to go over the details of their strategy. He explains they will split into 3 teams, 1 to hunt the parent spider, and 2 to deal with its offspring. The twins, Sarah and Shion, will provide aerial reconnaissance and support, but are warned not to engage the enemy directly. Kaya explains to the twins that while Itsuki's Yatagarasu are unavailable, she will be responsible for protecting the cottage. Kaya stammers, admitting she came along because she was too worried to stay behind. The A-rank Onmyoji then turns to Itsuki with a serious question. One of the soldiers asks if it's wise to distribute such powerful talismans, noting their value far exceeds the payment. The clan head explains that he's adding a bonus to avoid rumors of them buying out a C-rank Onmyoji, but Itsuki admits to himself that making talismans of this quality is actually quite easy for him. The twins feel they owe him for the lessons learned during the exam, and this is their clan's way of repaying that debt. Itsuki just smiles, calling it an advance payment for Sarah's pre-order. The A-rank Onmyoji smirks, impressed by how well the boy handles people. Sarah then cheerfully offers to show Itsuki and Kaya to their rooms in the cottage. But Shion just turns away, telling her sister she's going to bed and leaving the rest to her. Sarah comments that Itsuki's reputation is quite different from his father's. Itsuki listens to her words, a thoughtful expression on his face. But then he remembers something important he almost forgot. He presents her with a special guardian talisman made just for her. Sarah is taken aback, questioning why she's receiving special treatment. Her eyes widen as she tries to understand his intentions. He explains that a special thread has been woven into the paper, one that can pick up sound vibrations and allow them to listen in on conversations. A wave of horror washes over her as she realizes the implications. But Itsuki simply states that he will be the one to go. Itsuki tells Sarah he's going to do some scouting before the mission begins tomorrow. She worries about him going alone, knowing they're being watched and can't ask for help. She tells Kaya that Itsuki's power is immense, and all they can do now is trust him. Deep in the forest, the night is filled with a dark, unsettling presence. But Itsuki finds the scenery a welcome change from the endless fires of hell. He begins a ritual, unleashing a wave of his own power into the woods. A paper Shikigami takes flight, sent to scout the enemy's territory. But the paper bird is suddenly destroyed in a flash of light. Itsuki wonders why his Shikigami was so easily taken down. A wave of panic hits him as he realizes he's walked right into a trap. He realizes he's already trapped inside the spider's massive web. Suddenly, a sharp projectile comes flying right at him. The attack is a hardened strand of webbing aimed to kill, but his own talismans activate, forming a desperate shield around him. He realizes his guardian charm was broken, and a poison is seeping through the threads. The forest itself has been weakening his power ever since he stepped inside. With no other choice, he forms a new seal, preparing a powerful counter-ritual. He knows his divine energy is useless against this poison, and time is running out. One of the spider's children appears, explaining she had to curse the web with her own power. But Itsuki begins a new incantation, ready to fight this curse with a different kind of power. His paper Shikigami strikes the shadowy figure, beginning the subjugation ritual. He commands the entity to become his Shikigami, forcing a contract before its true power is revealed. The creature cries out as the light tears at its shadowy form, and from the darkness, she's reborn in human form, given the name Suisen. She seems absolutely delighted by this turn of events, amazed by the power of her new master. She then asks Itsuki why her powerful poison had no effect on him. He realizes with a sweat that her human form is far too perfect, wondering what she truly is. Suisen just offers a small, knowing smile in return. She explains that this form is perfect for luring in prey, and that the last meal was quite delicious. Itsuki can only stare, realizing this spider's curse is on a completely different level. Suisen cheerfully introduces herself as Itsuki's new lover, but her confident smile freezes in an instant, as Kaya appears with glowing eyes, declaring herself the master's true Shikigami. Itsuki is caught in the middle, completely overwhelmed by the sudden confrontation. He scolds Suisen for her self-serving introduction, much to her surprise. She nervously reintroduces herself as just another one of his Shikigami, putting on a tearful display as she begs for their acceptance. Itsuki explains that since she's bound by his ritual, she can't disobey his commands. He warns her not to challenge Kaya, a mountain goddess she could never hope to defeat. With the hierarchy established, he prepares to question his new Shikigami. Itsuki asks if she was the one watching the cottage. Suisen confirms it, explaining that this is her territory now, and her mother's voice is gone. He holds up the broken talisman, asking how she managed to shatter a C-rank charm when her power should be much weaker. She then turns her attention to Kaya, asking if she's related to the mountain goddess, if she has divine blood in her veins. Suisen smiles, revealing that she's the same, and that her big brother is a great demon. The term catches Itsuki off guard, a title reserved for A-rank demons and their tribes. She explains that long ago, a great demon king led an army of tens of thousands against the gods of Japan. After a long and brutal war, the demon king was defeated, but his followers and descendants remained, and she reveals the truth. She, her mother, and all the spider children carry the blood of that same great demon. Itsuki holds up a talisman, demanding to know everything about the spider's strength and numbers. Suisen casually confirms that they are poisonous, a fact her new darling should understand. She then reveals her mother devoured a soldier and stole his radio, warning them not to use their own. Kaya is stunned, realizing these creatures are intelligent enough to use human technology. Suisen's smile turns sinister as she warns that those with demon blood who eat humans might find their souls bound for hell. She adds with a chilling grin that her mother and stepmother are also incredibly strong. The word stepmother catches Itsuki completely off guard. His eyes widen in horror as he realizes the truth. There isn't one parent spider, but two. Back at the cottage, the base of operations for the mission, Itsuki delivers his grim report to the rest of the subjugation team. Kaya is surprised that he's already taken on a new support request, while Suisen happily promises to exceed all expectations. With a slightly strained smile, Kaya says she hopes they can work together again in the future. Itsuki just smiles, promising to give her special treatment as a valued client next time. The A-rank on Myoji reorganizes the teams, confirming the B-rank parent spider will be handled by his own son-in-law. The newly discovered C-rank parent and its offspring will be dealt with by the military forces. The twins are surprised to learn they've been reassigned to defend the cottage. Sarah listens with concern as the new objective is laid out: bait the parent, confirm its numbers, and then retreat. She understands that their top priority is now survival, not direct combat with the spider's children. With the new strategy in place, the team prepares for the operation to begin at dawn. As night settles over the cottage, one of the Onmyoji is called out onto the balcony. It's the A-rank Onmyoji, his expression grim and thoughtful. His sister joins him on the balcony, offering him a warm drink. He comments on the heavy burden he's placed upon his daughters, Sarah and Cheyenne. He muses that while they've earned their licenses, this mission will be the true test of their abilities. His sister watches him with a knowing, almost challenging look. She points out that he seems to be trying to convince himself more than he's talking to her. Her words hit their mark and he takes a nervous sip from his cup. He admits that it feels wrong to be so lenient with his own family in such a dangerous situation, but she reminds him that his daughters won't see his concern as a weakness. As the night deepens, the weight of their decisions hangs over the quiet cottage. Elsewhere, Shion prepares her own small Shikigami for the coming battle. She sits awake while her sister sleeps, her staff glowing with power. Her father believes this mission could be the breakthrough his daughters need. His sister reminds him that this is the duty of the Gokido clan's eldest daughter, but he can't shake the feeling of unease as he takes a sip. She tells him to rest as they have a long day ahead of them. With only 8 hours until the operation begins, everyone prepares for the fight. The next day, a lone taxi makes its way toward the Shikigami line. Inside, Itsuki and Kaya ride in a tense, contemplative silence. Kaya leans in, her voice filled with concern for the others. He knows that no matter what they do, some level of damage is unavoidable. Even with his immense power, he feels his contribution will be a drop in the ocean against this threat. He questions why the proud Gokido clan would risk bringing in an outsider for such a dangerous family matter. Suisun's chilling words echo in his mind, a warning that the spider's hunger could condemn their souls to hell. But Kaya's voice pulls him from his thoughts as she brings up Sarah's name. The memory of his awkward hug during the exam match comes rushing back, leaving him completely flustered. She explains that she feels a connection to Sarah, another half-Yukai girl like herself. She recalls how Sarah opened up to her back at the cottage, admitting how much she loves her family. Itsuki is surprised to hear this, a side of the proud twin he never expected. Kaya can only hope that they all make it through this mission safely. Itsuki agrees with her, a quiet resolve settling in his eyes. Their taxi continues its journey into the heart of the spider's cursed territory. Elsewhere, the battle has already begun, with monstrous spiders swarming the subjugation team. Shion fights alongside the soldiers, deflecting a blast of dark energy with her staff. She stands her ground, vowing to protect the cottage until the others return from the front lines. But she's caught off guard by a powerful blow that sends her reeling. A shadowy spider looms over her, its attack relentless and brutal. Shion grits her teeth in frustration, realizing they're completely outmatched by the sheer number of C-rank threats. Sarah holds up one of Itsuki's talismans, explaining that while it's holding, they have no hope of actually winning this fight. Back at the cottage, their father receives a grim report over the phone. The spider children taunt them, glad that their prey has arrived just as their mother predicted. They look up at the twins, calling them winged ants and wondering if they'd make a tasty meal. But Shion senses something is wrong, realizing the creatures are planning something. One of them holds up the stolen radio, eager to finish their task and get on with their meal. Shion's eyes widen as she understands their true objective. She unleashes a blast of energy, aiming to destroy the device. Sarah flies in, shouting that their plan has been exposed by Itsuki. Shion tells them to give up, trapped within the barrier he created. But the spider child just gives a sinister grin, completely unfazed. It asks if they really thought destroying the radio was a good idea, revealing they were only here on an errand for their mother. Shion demands to know what the creature is talking about. The spider child explains their mother's true errand, to broadcast their father's voice to the winged girls. A distorted voice crackles from the radio, calling out for his sisters. Sarah's expression hardens, a flicker of recognition in her eyes. But Shion's face pales with utter shock and disbelief. The spider children wonder aloud, which of the twins is the one named Shiranui? Shion completely loses her composure, screaming at them to be silent. The twins unleash a furious combined blast of energy from their staffs. The attack tears through the forest in a desperate, uncontrolled wave. But Shion can only watch in horror as a shadowy hand reaches out from the chaos. Shion's eyes are wide with terror, tears streaming down her face. A shadowy hand strikes out, sending Sarah reeling backward. Shion can only scream her sister's name as she's thrown through the air. She's left alone, facing one of her own small Shikigami. Sarah looks back, her own face a mask of grief and determination. She clutches her chest, letting out a cry of anguish. Just then, a call comes through on Itsuki's phone from Shion. He answers to hear a desperate plea for help on the other end. Back in the forest, the twins' father holds back a massive attack, begging Itsuki to lend them his strength. But the shadowy force overwhelms him completely. Shion takes to the air, her expression hardened with resolve. But she's quickly brought down, crying out for her family as she's held by her aunt. The Gakudo woman admits she was powerless to help, warning that they can't let their guard down. She explains the stepmother's goal was to break their spirits by preying on their fear of the unknown. Just then, a shadowy, multi-armed figure emerges, commenting on their persistence. Shion shouts out, recognizing the monstrous stepmother. She and her uncle stand back to back, realizing the creature is struggling to fight them without retreating. But Shion is weakening. calling out to her stepmother with a pained expression. She knows she needs to break through this, but the curse is already taking hold, and her uncle is caught in the spider's web, unable to break free. The spider stepmother taunts her captive, saving the uncle for last. But just then, Itsuki and Kaya finally arrive on the scene. He instructs the taxi driver to bring the wounded to him, and to get them to the nearest hospital as quickly as possible. Itsuki then turns to Kaya, telling her to wake the Yatagarasu. She calls out to the chicks, telling them it's time to get up. The 5 Shikigami burst from their carrier, ready for a fight. Itsuki adjusts his gloves, his own resolve hardening for the battle ahead. He makes a silent vow that he won't let Sarah or Cheyenne fall today, and Kaya can only watch, putting her complete faith in him. Kaya looks at him, calling out his name with quiet concern. But Itsuki just smiles, promising her that he has no intention of falling into hell again. A quiet moment passes between them, and Kaya offers a gentle smile of her own. The taxi driver can only watch, musing on the innocence of youth. Kaya wishes him well, telling him to be careful as he heads into the fight. With his Yatagarasu ready, Itsuki holds up a single talisman. He shouts an ancient command, unleashing its hidden power, then launches himself into the fray, his flock of Shikigami swarming around him. His expression is one of pure, unwavering focus as he enters the battlefield. And in the distance, a series of massive explosions rock the mountainside. The spider stepmother reveals her monstrous, multi-armed form. Cheyenne counters with a blast of demonic fire from her staff. She charges forward, determined to hold the line on her own, but the monster just gives a chilling, confident sneer. Its massive clawed hand comes swiping down to attack. Cheyenne manages to parry the blow with a desperate swing. She grits her teeth, feeling the immense strain of the fight. But one of her small Shikigami is swatted aside in the chaos. Her thoughts drift to her father, the weight of her duty heavy on her shoulders. The scene then cuts to a memory of an ornate, vaulted hall. In the memory, Sarah offers her sister a small plushie as a good luck charm. Their father watches from the side, looking almost jealous of the cute gift. Cheyenne thanks her sister, promising to take good care of it always. But back in the present, the spider stepmother taunts the trapped Cheyenne, asking which part of her she should eat first. The small charm her sister gave her falls helplessly to the ground. The monster continues its cruel taunts, suggesting it will tear off her limbs first. It promises to make her watch as its children devour the rest of the feast. Cheyenne screams for the monster to be silent, unable to bear its words. The creature just gives a sinister grin, offering to make it so she can't hear anything at all. With a final terrifying lunge, the spider stepmother moves in for the kill, but just as its claw comes down for the final blow, one of Itsuki's Yatagarasu swoops in to intercept the attack. Cheyenne can only stare, her mind struggling to process the sudden rescue. Itsuki stands before her, having arrived in the nick of time. The spider stepmother clutches her chest, wounded by his surprise assault. Our boy looks on, his expression cold and unforgiving. The monster's form shatters under the force of his purifying energy. From the sidelines, the twins' uncle and aunt can only watch in disbelief. The Gokidu woman realizes the small Shikigami was a decoy to buy them time, and Itsuki stands ready, his gaze fixed on the wounded monster. He draws a bow of pure energy, unleashing a volley of dark power. In the distance, the taxi waits as the battle begins to rage. Kaya sends her prayers to her master, hoping for everyone's safety. The arrow of darkness slams into the ground with explosive force. A wave of purifying light tears through the monstrous spider's limbs. The stepmother is thrown back, wounded by the sudden, powerful assault. But Itsuki senses a surge in her cursed energy, far greater than before. Cheyenne can only call out his name, stunned by the power on display. The monster is struck again by a divine power, a technique of the goddess Izanami. The blow connects with devastating force, staggering the massive creature. But Itsuki is stunned as his new Shikigami Suisen calls out to her mother. She stands before the wounded spider stepmother, her former parent. Suisen cheerfully explains that she sided with Itsuki because he's strong enough to defeat her. The monstrous mother seems to understand, as if this was her true wish all along. With a sinister smile, Suisen tells her not to come back from the dead this time. The stepmother is consumed by a final, purifying flame, ending the C-rank threat. The A-rank Onmyoji explains that while his team fought the stepmother, the twins' father was hunting the B-rank parent. Later, back at the base, an official receives a full report on the mission. He learns that the spider's presence in the area has been almost completely wiped out. But the victory came at a cost, as the twins' father was gravely wounded, and his future as an Onmyoji is now in doubt. An official from the association delivers his report with a nervous expression. The twins' father listens, his own face a mask of cold fury. The report details Sarah's condition, paralyzed by the spider's curse and in a state of shock. To save her life, the doctors recommend amputating the poisoned limbs. The official concludes his grim report on the necessary procedure. He then bows deeply, offering a profuse and desperate apology. He even offers an additional 2 billion yen as a show of sincerity. But the A-rank on Myoji's expression remains as hard as stone. He refuses their apology, stating he will only accept the original payment for the mission. The official looks up, sweating, unsure of how to proceed. He explodes with rage, telling the official he has nothing to say to him. He accuses the association of crossing a sacred line and causing this tragedy. He tells the man to leave and never return until he's summoned. The official can only stare back, completely terrified by his fury. And with that, the man turns and leaves without another word. The scene then shifts to a quiet hospital room where Shion visits her sister. Sarah lies in her bed, her arm now gone, a victim of the spider's curse. Shion clutches the small charm her sister gave her and holds it close to Sarah's, telling her to wait for her. A single tear falls as she turns away, her heart filled with a quiet, burning resolve. A nurse watches as Shion makes her way down the sterile hospital corridor. She offers a small, respectful bow before continuing on her way. The nurse can only look on with concern as the young girl walks away. Her destination is a waiting area, where she finds Itsuki and Kaya sitting together. She stops before them, her sudden appearance catching them both by surprise. Shion tells Itsuki that if he hadn't arrived when he did, the damage would have been far worse. But her serious expression softens into a smile as she offers him her sincere thanks. Itsuki seems a bit taken aback by her gratitude, but quietly accepts it. Her demeanor shifts again, a new hesitation in her eyes as she prepares to ask for something more. She asks if he'd be willing to take on another unreasonable request, even if she can't afford his usual fee. She explains that she wants to try everything she can to save her sister, Sarah. But she's stunned when Itsuki says his fee will be paid directly to Sarah as a request from one onmyoji to another. He smiles, clarifying that from this moment on, Sarah is his client. His unexpected kindness is enough to bring Shion to tears. Kaya smiles, noting that Shion has finally come to trust in her master. A flustered Shion quickly tells her that no explanation is necessary. Itsuki gets down to business, asking for a more detailed report on Sarah's condition. Shion explains that the wound isn't a simple injury, but a powerful curse that no human can purify. For now, Sarah is being kept stable by their father's talismans and their clan's secret medicine. But Itsuki understands that it's only a matter of time before the curse spreads and consumes her completely. She explains that in just a few days, they'll be forced to amputate Sarah's limbs. Through tears, she begs him to save her sister one more time. Kaya calls out her name, her own expression filled with concern. As Shion breaks down, Kaya tries to offer what little comfort she can. Itsuki considers the task, not just stopping the curse, but completely restoring what was lost. An idea takes shape, a plan to counter the curse with a divine power of its own. The others are confused by his mention of a divine healing ability. Shion looks up, a flicker of hope mixing with her confusion. He explains that first, he'll need her help to locate the source of this power. Their search takes them to the Ibigawa Dam in Gifu Prefecture. Shion questions if this is truly the place, but Itsuki confirms the online reports. She believes that if they can find the Sarutahako, Sara's curse can be cured. But she knows this trio of yukai will be difficult to subdue, even for them. Itsuki says they just need to break the creature's cycle, but a rustle in the bushes cuts him off. Suddenly, the first of the three yukai lunges forward, tripping Itsuki with its chains. The second beast follows up, its bladed tail swiping at his legs. And just as quickly, the third and final creature appears. It applies a healing salve to the very wound its siblings just created. Shion flies down, calling out for the small creature to wait, but it ignores her completely, leaping away into the distance. Shion lands before the small creature, demanding that it stop. The little yukai looks up at her, letting out a defiant squeak. She insists that she has business with it, and that it had better listen to what she has to say. But the creature just cries out and leaps away, completely ignoring her threat. Its two larger siblings suddenly appear, warning her to stay away from their sister. Itsuki realizes that trying to reason with them will only make them angrier. With a sigh, he decides he'll have to handle this himself, calling out to the two brothers. He stands before them, a lone figure facing down the two angry yukai, and then completely disarms them with a childish, taunting gesture. He continues his childish taunts, hoping to get a rise out of the two brothers. And his bizarre strategy seems to be working perfectly. He tells a horrified Shion that she needs to join in on the provocation. She hesitates, but the thought of her sister gives her the resolve she needs. With her wings spread, she joins the ridiculous display, much to the yukai's growing fury. The two brothers finally snap, lunging forward in a blind rage. They unleash a powerful blast of energy, aimed right at their tormentors. But Susan appears in a flash, effortlessly trapping them in a web. She calls out to Shion, telling her that now is their chance. And with the small healer in hand, Shion unleashes a blast of demonic fire. The demonic fire engulfs the two brothers, searing their monstrous forms. Shion realizes the flames are spreading through their own power, just as Itsuki planned. The brothers struggle against the flames, demanding a fair fight. But Itsuki reminds them of the reports from the association, detailing their attacks on everything in the mountain. Their little sister explains that her healing salve only mends their wounds. He then offers them a choice: become his Shikigami, or be subjugated without mercy. The small healer begs her brothers to stop fighting and just listen to them. But the brothers refuse to yield, declaring that they haven't been beaten yet. Shion watches them, her patience clearly wearing thin. She finally snaps, shouting at the stubborn yukai to just give it up. Shion shouts at the trapped brothers, reminding them how much they care for their sister. She begs them to stop their pointless attacks on humans, a path that leads only to misery. With a new fire in her eyes, she demands they lend her their power for her own cause. Itsuki watches her impassioned plea, his expression unreadable. The two brothers seem to finally understand the weight of her words. Their little sister begins a powerful incantation, ready to offer her aid. The brothers agree to the terms, ready to bind themselves in a new contract. And with a final command, Itsuki seals the pact, making them his own. They are reborn as divine spirits, given the names Shinji, Shinzetsu, and Shinten. The three new Shikigami bow in unison, their power now pledged to their new masters. With the contract sealed, Itsuki and Shion now have the power they need. Shion makes a silent promise to her sister, telling her to just hold on.